Sherry Tikvah was named for a synagogue in Europe. It means gates of hope. I wanted to keep a little bit of the old, a little bit of the new, and so we created the name Beth Tikvah, House of Hope. The two checks represent a merger of the Sherry Tikvah congregation, which was operating as a synagogue, and the Bayview Synagogue Association, which eventually resulted in the merger creating Beth Tikvah Synagogue. The groundbreaking ceremony was a very exciting event in the history of Beth Tikvah. It was raining, so in the rain we traipsed out. That's the very famous picture in the boardroom. We call it Rabbi Fader's reverential picture because he lifted up his collar and it looks like he's a reverend. It's an amazing picture and event in our history.
We all remember a really successful art show over the years, but I don't remember it starting that way. And the first couple of years were tough to get it going. There were a lot of pleas for help, but we ended up with many years of a wonderful art show, and we spent lots of great mornings and afternoons in the Sisterhood kitchen. We made our best friends in the kitchen with our little kids, days that were really to be treasured.
Well, there was a special chemistry between the Beth Tikvah Choir and me right from the very, very beginning. It's the love of Jewish music and the mix of the personalities. They're a highly temperamental bunch and a very artistic group of people.
very young, a young congregation going to visit Israel. We sang all over Israel. We davened all over Israel. We davened in Kenetra. They told us it was the first service in 1,200 years in Kenetra. We davened, from the picture you can see, we davened in Masada. We davened all over the place, and we sang all over the place. Who will ever forget Rabbi Fader singing Old Man River as we crossed Lake Kinneret? The first Torah dedication was another exhilarating time. We had a Torah procession. Every member who participated paid the princely sum of $50 for inscribing a letter in our first Torah.
One of Beth Tikvah's first fundraising activities was the open house that was held at Norman Lorraine Levine's home. Their home, they've always been collectors of Canadiana and Victoriana, and managed to turn that interest into a fundraising for Beth Tikvah. A kol has always been the premier way of communicating to our congregants. It started off very modestly, but it's grown to be quite a lively and professional-looking paper. Our beautiful synagogue didn't just happen. Different events and ceremonies dedicating these special editions, such as the carpet.
In our tradition, music by the rabbis has always been considered the primary way to pray. The Talmud says that if you do not use music in prayer, it is as though you haven't prayed at all. So singing is the premium way of reaching to God.
I went to Malabar's and rented a costume of a Hasidic Jew. They had a series of costumes available from Fiddler on the Roof set, and I came in one of these costumes, And from then on, things blossomed.
The Brotherhood, which is now known as the Men's Club, has sponsored a lot of different activities over the years. We've gone to Blue Jay games, picnics, and many, many breakfasts attended by very erudite speakers.
Farewell dinner for Rabbi and Leona Fader. We had a wonderful turnout of about 500 people, and the evening was superb. It ran like clockwork. The program was wonderful, and everybody came away with tears in their eyes.
Who will ever forget Rabbi Fader's emotional address and his ending by singing, "Where shall I go? Where shall I go?" And his hand linking behind his to Leona's. It was just a tear-filled, memorable event, never to be forgotten.
One of the things we can be proud of at Beth Tikvah is the work we've done in social action. And of that, you think of the work about Soviet refuseniks.
They got phone calls going in the congregation, letter writing, twinning of B'nai Mitzvot, as well as the Adopt a Refusenik program going.
And that included trips to Ottawa, to the Soviet embassy. It included, that was busloads of people. It included even some members who went to Switzerland and managed to get arrested, albeit briefly, a little notoriety for Beth Tikvah. Avital Sharansky was also part of the group and very much connected with Beth Tikvah.
And certainly the crowning achievement of that committee was the release of Anatoly Sharansky.
And his appearance at Beth Tikvah.
Absolutely, yeah. Another activity of our Social Action Committee was the outreach program, which involved members of the committee as well as some of the children visiting our nursing homes in our community.
Beth Tikvah Choir made such astounding progress in the earlier years of their being together that after a very, very short period of time, we started to sing outside of Beth Tikvah in other synagogues, in other community centers.
Over the 25 years at Beth Tikvah, our youth have fulfilled, in many cases, the full cycle of development, starting with attending of the babysitting, going through the school system, the youth system, and after marriage or even before marriage, ultimately ending up in leadership roles, even down to or up to positions on the Board of Governors of the synagogue.
For the longest time, I know we've gone to Shaw every single spring. That's been a great, fun time for all of us. I guess I was the one who was always leading the singing, and we had a great time on the bus, going and coming.
We also went to international conventions for Women's League for Conservative Judaism at the Concord, and I remember Marilyn leading the singing on the bus there too.
A very special event that has been taking place lately at the synagogue has been to sponsor groups through Bet Halochem. This involves many different people from the synagogue touring the soldiers around, showing them various parts of our community, entertaining them, and it's a rehabilitation program for the soldiers, gratifying not only for them but for the hosts and hostesses involved in it. This past year, in order to commemorate the expulsion of the Jews from Spain, Beth Tikvah sponsored several activities as well as musical events, and culminated the whole project in a Beth Tikvah tour to Spain and Israel.
Here we have this row gallery of presidents, all very different people. Some are tall, some are short, some have more hair than others, some have facial hair. I'm partial to the facial hair myself. Having said that, we all have much in common. We all have certainly a sense of dedication to the synagogue. I think we all have a sense of exhaustion after having completed our term of office, because that term of office is an all-encompassing few years for each of us.
What goes into making a president of a sisterhood? Interesting question. When I first started in the sisterhood, I remember saying to the current president, I will not speak in public, ever. I might sing now and then, but I'm not going to speak. Sisterhood was like a journey for me. And every step of the way, it was a journey upward. I grew, I learned, I studied, I taught. It's a marvelous place for women in our synagogue.